Okay, so obviously this isn't a weekly vlog because it is not Monday, but also, I want to just go ahead and take this time to just point out real quick that I'm more than just an angry dude yelling about things that are going wrong in my life, as well as my disdain for certain political party. I'm more than that. I am a big fan of fiction, so I wanted to take this time to actually talk about fiction again. Okay, so I like DC Comics. I am a big fan of DC Comics. I have been since I was a kid. I remember watching like my earliest obsession with the animated TV show has to be the original Batman the animated series, and I remember just being a big fan of. I remember being a big fan of the music, especially the intro song, the dun 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 dun. But like, I also love the fact that it was like, it didn't present itself like a kids show. Before I was watching the DC the not the anime Batman the animated series. I was introduced to cartoons like the Looney Tunes, which was mostly slapstick humor, and every so often maybe like silent humor complete with music. One of my favorite, like a lot of my favorite Looney Tunes cartoons was specifically the silent ones that had like something to do with like music, like the Barber of Seville, the Flight of the Valkyries, and all those opera pieces, and Figaro. I love the Figaro, 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 and the magician would like change them up, and he would be like doing all these looking back racial stereotypes. But the whole idea was that like I did enjoy like I like the idea of moving colors and the absurdity of it. But it wasn't really anything that made me like just say to myself, "Oh my God, this is the greatest stuff ever." Although Merry Melodies used to have some bangers when it came to music, though I ain't gonna lie. I also was never a fan of the Tom and Jerry series. I'm ashamed of that because once again, I wasn't too big on silent characters. I wasn't really too big on right now today. I love mime. I love the idea of mime, the idea of like being able to tell a story without saying a word. But back then, I was just very, I wasn't, I was slapstick humor just goes over my head. Like I'm not a big fan of slapstick humor. Like the Three Stooges never really did anything for me. But but like because of like Looney Tunes, I was always compelled to the idea that animated shows was mostly slapstick humor, maybe chases, loud noises, fast motions, and then I ended up watching The Simpsons, and I realized, oh, this is much more adult. It's much more grown up. I mean, it was animated, but it was a lot less, and it was still slapstick. The why you little, and this, the him strangling, and not him, yeah, him strangling Bart and everything like that. That was still, but it was like outside of that, they also like talked about like adult stuff, like politics and dating and marriage and stuff like that. And I didn't understand a lot of this stuff. I would just watch it for the. I would watch those for the immature moments that I thought that I outgrew from watching Looney Tunes because it was like it felt less like a cartoon and felt more like a show that just happened to have cartoony moments in it that just also happens to be animated. Whereas I ended up watching Batman the animated series and it felt less like it felt like a perfect combination of the two. It felt like a perfect combination of the adult grown up stuff that I wanted to see combined with the cartoony stuff that I did enjoy. Because while I thought that I outgrew slapstick comedy, I still love a good fight scene. But I also like the idea of knowing what led to that fight scene. I'd always like the idea of kind of knowing well, like what happened here? Like what's the story? Like what led to this? You can't just show me a fight scene and I'm just gonna be like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever. Like like most like that wasn't me. I need to know what led to it, what happened. I need to know the whole story. I need to know everything about everybody involved before I care about this epic fight. You know what I mean? Because then I want to be able to like see a random new. I want to see a random nuanced thing and be like, he did that and another thing. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to, stuff like that. That's kind of like a thing that I thoroughly enjoyed. So I will watch. I remember like being a kid. I saw Batman the animated series, great show, and as time went by, I started getting more and more introduced to like superhero TV shows because I don't know if anybody else is old enough to remember, but Iron Man had a TV series where he actually had much longer hair, and he had a cartoon series or animated series, and there was the Fantastic Four, and I remember they used to have a theme song, Fantastic Four, and I think that's the only part I remember of it. But I also remember as time went by down the line, I think to prevent kids from wanting to immolate themselves to be the Human Torch, they made another Fantastic Four series, and they took the Human Torch out and they replaced him with a robot. And I don't think that that series did that well because everybody was like, "Oh, I want to see the guy with the fire," and but it was like there were bits and while there were bits and pieces of the Marvel series, there was a lot more animated shows for me to watch for DC. So because it was like you had Batman Beyond, you had the Superman series, and you had the Justice League, and all of these other, and then you had like all the others, the live action shows, which I didn't watch but are aware they existed, like the Birds of Prey, the Human Target, which I actually did want to see. Then there was there was Birds of Prey, the Human Target. There was the I mean, obviously the Superman series, but I'm trying to break away from the big three because obviously they did have Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, but they also had other shows that kind of like sort of introduced the DC universe. Whereas it felt like Marvel was starting to become more live action, and and the only animated show I remember outside of Spider Man, the animated series was Iron Man and Fantastic Four. I don't know if there was any others, and it kind of bums me out if there were, and I just didn't see them because the more I saw of DC, the more interested I became of DC, and I ultimately wanted to and when I realized that they were based off of comic books, I wanted to get the comic books, but we was always too poor to go to like there wasn't a comic book store in my hometown, in my neighborhood, that I could just walk to and just read books, and the local library was at least an hour away on foot. And that's kind of how I got around back in the day. I couldn't just ask my mom, can you take me to the library? Because they would always be at work. And that was kind of one of the big reasons why the internet was actually like a really big thing for me, like the internet and television, because I wanted to learn things. I didn't want to just like watch fight scenes and like I didn't want to just watch fight scenes and kapow. That wasn't the thing. I wanted to understand the lore of these heroes and who these cats were. And then when I actually finally did start reading the comic books, and I realized the comic books were nothing like the animated shows, which were nothing like the movies. It is like I just remember just being so angry because it's like I got 8 different renditions of Batman. It's like it's the same character, the same story told 8 different ways, 8 different times, and I'm just like, which one is the real one? Are they connected or what? What's going on? And that sort of stuff kind of really agitated me. And to this day, I still don't like multiverses because it feels confusing in comparison to like I just want a story that I can read from beginning to end. That's it. I don't care how long the story is, as long as it has a beginning and an end. One of the big reasons why I like manga and one of the big reasons why I read manga a lot and is because like the same like for example, One Piece, Luffy from chapter 1 is the same Luffy in chapter 11, is the same Luffy in chapter 111, and now I'm pretty sure that's going to be the same Luffy in the chapter 1111. God willing, Oda, please stay alive. So we can actually it's the same character. You have time skips, but there's no retcons. There's no, or rather, if there are retcons, it's very, very, very subtle. But the plot is still the same. You know what I'm saying? Things are still happening. Whereas you're not getting 8 different variations of the same character. It's not like everybody wrote a fanfic and now suddenly it's like all these fanfics are canon. You know what I'm saying? That's not what it is. And that's one of the big reasons why I, the thing that kind of, one of the big reasons why I'm very loyal to stories that are that are written like that, so to speak. I like the idea of creative expression, but I don't like the idea of somebody just rewriting a character and just being like, this is what they are now. And then it's like, okay, but also this, it's way too many lateral movements when it comes to plot that I'm just not a fan of. It's like, like Helena Wayne. Has Helena Wayne met Damian Wayne yet? Has that happened? Can that happen? Helena Wayne is Batman's like first kid. Can that happen? Please. Um, but yeah though. But like the more I got involved, the more. But the thing that kept me wanting to read more of DC Comics was just the sheer fact that I found myself being able to access their stuff a lot more. Marvel was really hard to get back in the day, and I found myself reading more DC Comics. And as much as complicating as trying to organize canon was, the stories themselves were still pretty compelling, and the stories themselves were still pretty nice to read. So I was like, well, even if it's canon or not, I don't care. It's still a good story, whatever. I never really, but I was still very much loyal to canon. That was so like clearly down the line, I ultimately ended up getting the DC app so I could actually read the stories and try to connect the stories of old to the current stories, which is going to be impossible for some instances because the original Batman from like the very first Batman story is dead. He's dead. Golden Age Batman is dead, and he died before the Crisis. So it's like, yeah, he's gone. Meanwhile, so it's like Brucey from back then dead. Current Bruce is a different Bruce, a different universe. I don't understand what's going on. Part of me would just love for them to kind of just sort of revisit at least the grave of the first Bruce, so they could just sort of like make that, so they could just tie that together and be like, oh, this is where the original Bruce died at, or something. I don't know. Meanwhile, you have Superman who came back from death, right? And I was, a few times actually, which I just think is amazing. And also, Wonder Woman, who I don't think has ever actually died before, or even gotten injured. Like Wonder Woman has the best record. She just leaves whenever she wants to and just comes back. Also, while I'm on the subject of DC Comics, I am currently reading Wonder Woman. I'm reading Wonder Woman, Power Girl, and I'm reading Wonder Woman, Power Girl, the Superman, and the current Titans, just to kind of see what's going on in the current plots. And you follow them, they kind of give you an idea of what's going on in the current plots. I'm also reading Arrow. I didn't realize how much I would love the Arrow series. For those who don't, my whole thing is that like when I first heard about Arrow, because I never really actually sat down and paid attention to him, I was just like, oh, he's Green Batman, whatever. But it's like, no, he's not. He's really not. He's basically what happens if they turned. He's basically what happens if they turned what's his name? If they turned Robin Hood into a superhero, and I like that. Like I said, it's like he's anti-capitalist. My new favorite character. You know what I'm saying? I do have a couple of favorite DC heroes. I can't list them all, but just off the top of my head, Spectre, Black Lightning. I love Vixen. I also think that Mal and Bumblebee are really awesome together. I love obviously Green Arrow. Especially, I also think that I feel like the DC writers get a little too crazy torturing Roy Harper, but I love the fact that Roy is now currently with his family again, is reacquainted with his daughter. It's a beautiful thing to see. I used to be a big fan of Jason Todd because because of like when he came back the way that I was like going through an edgelord phase, and it was like, yeah, he's so cool because he's so edgy and he's willing to actually like end the bad guys, you know what I'm saying? And I thought that was really cool. But it's like, but also another thing too is that he himself is a bit of a criminal, but revenge is necessary. I love this idea of what they're doing with Jason Todd now. I love what they're doing with the Bat family, so to speak, because it's not just heroic. You have a heroic with you have heroic with ethics with Montoya. You have heroic with like crime with Todd. You have heroics with science with Drake. You have heroics with just like heroics for the sake of heroics with Grayson. You have like you kind of just you get a chance to see them sort of veer off. You get a chance to sort of see how everybody sort of veers off in their own form of heroics, and everybody has their own perspective. Whereas I also love the idea of, I also love one thing I love about DC is how they actually do kind of hype up the concept of having a family. because you got the Bat family, the Flash family, the Arrow family. Everybody is like, the Justice League. If the Justice League were to like band off right now, they could all just sort of just be their own individual Justice Leagues. It's just that cool. You got like and I just think that that's kind of dope. I especially love the Wonder Woman series right now because obviously Donna Troy, Cassie Sandsmark, and Yara Flor are easily my three favorite. Also, some of my favorite characters in the story because I like the idea of Cassie kind of like just sort of being this real man's woman, so to speak. I also like I like Donna Troy because Donna Troy. The more I learn about Donna Troy, the more it helps me like sort of link up the canon because I think that Donna Troy is the same Donna Troy from the earlier series as well. And I also think the same thing with Power Girl as well. I think that Power Girl is the same Power Girl from the very first one because she survived the crisis. And trying to think of who else. So it's like Power Girl is the same Power Girl. Then Supergirl is also the same Supergirl as well because her and Supergirl actually meet up in the chapter one of the most recent series, and I love it. I just love it. Like the whole aspect of family really kind of shines with Supergirl and Power Girl, sort of just rekindling their differences. You get a chance to sort of see Power Girl just be like, everybody's, I'm exiled because everybody doesn't like me, and everybody is like, you don't understand. We love you, and I'm just like, I know how that feels. That gets me. So but yeah, so it's like stuff like that is like it kind of like I said, I mostly read to try to research up on canon because it does feel like a lot of things are connecting, and I love that, and I love and appreciate that. They even reference like trivial weird stuff like Zero Hour and hyperspace and stuff like that, and but it's like the whole idea is that like I do kind of want to. I'm reading it less for the enjoyment and more for research. But the more I read it for research, the more I start enjoying it. Does that make sense? So yeah, that is definitely, and I do want to kind of get into Marvel for the same reason. But Marvel costs money, and DC it was not. DC is fairly pricey itself. So like I kind of it's like if I ever do get enough money, I would totally love to get both the Marvel and DC, so I can kind of do the same thing for Marvel that I'm doing for DC. Because I do want to read up on current stories and kind of understand what's going on lore wise, and just sort of see, hey, like what stories it's like, what plots are relevant, what plots aren't relevant, what are the plots that I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna say ignore, but what are the plots that I don't really need to read up on, in contrast to what plots I need to read up on currently, because I'm reading up on the Outsiders right now, and that's the one with one of the Fox sons, and for those who don't know, Outsiders was basically Batman's attempt to start his own Justice League outside of the ethics of the Justice League, and then it became his own thing. It became a much bigger thing, and now technically Fox, who is a Batman, he is now leader of it, and he has a Batwoman and Drummer with him, and they are just sort of like looking at all the anomalies between the multiverse, so to speak. And I just think that that's so cool because you get a chance because Drummer is like a part of the I forget what it's called, the Wildcats universe. I forget what it's called, but I love that. I'm loving this sort of stuff because of the fact that this is the kind of stuff that I really like to get into a little bit more, and I would love to. And it's inspiring me to write again because I am a bit of a writer, and one of the things that I've been trying my best to do is sort of like not necessarily seek inspiration because I'm always inspired, but I kind of always wanted to be able to know if there's a proper way to tell stories. So I'm reading up on all of these stories to see if there's a formula that it follows, and it doesn't. They just all just do their own thing. So I'm just like, you know what? I can just do my own thing too. No big deal. I love fiction because I want to create fiction, but I am studying fiction because I want to know how to write the fiction. Only to realize that there's no right way to write this stuff. It's like because at the end of the day, if your story matters to someone, they're going to read it. It's not about trying to like follow a formula that's going to create this thing that everybody's going to like, as much as it's just about just getting it out there, just to say that it is out there. I would go to a library all the time, and there's a ridiculous amount of books that probably have never been read before, probably haven't been read for years after they've been published. And you know, but they're still there at the library, just in case you want to, just in case you ever feel like reading them. They're right there, and that is kind of where that's kind of what I would like to be. I don't mind if my book doesn't get read. I don't mind if my series. I don't mind if I don't get any kind of fame or recognition now. I would just rather it just be there for somebody who wants to see it, or I'd rather just be this person. Like, if you want to see me, I'm there. I'm a niche market, whatever. That's the point. Like, if I do become famous off of it, that would be awesome. Actually, I wouldn't mind it, but it's not something that I feel like I can pursue because fame and success is not determined by me. It's determined by you. It's determined by what you want to see and who you want to help make successful. So there's that, and it feels like that's kind of what is becoming. And the process of me like wanting to learn about it, I'm learning about how I'm trying to figure out how to write women, how to write groups of people, how to write this type of thing, how to write that type of thing, what to do specifically to try to make things flow flow in a way. And the more I'm learning about that, the more I'm realizing there's no correct way to do this. You just do it. It's like whistling. You just pucker your lips and blow. That's it. If you don't whistle, what I'm saying, with practice you will, but that's all it takes. Pen to paper. I hope this made sense. And I hope this made sense. I apologize if I'm a little rambly. When I talk about like comics and stuff like that, I do tend to get a little, rambly and stuff like that. But yes, but long story short, I love fiction. I'm reading comics. I can talk about comics all day, and I don't know. I might do something else afterwards. I gotta get ready for work though. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more content, and we'll talk again. We'll talk again soon. Also, to my members, I hope that you guys can see my welcome video. I appreciate it all the same. Thanks again for the support. Love, peace, and happiness out there to every single person. And if you can't, being mean is mainstream, but being kind is punk rock. Always be punk rock. And if you can't provide care or compassion or kindness or love or any of that stuff for people, then just leave them alone. We're all suffering right now. You know what I'm saying? Don't add on to somebody's bad day. Don't be a bad ad. Be a good ad. But yeah, maybe I might do this again. I'm thinking about doing a review for some comics down the line, and we'll talk again. Love and peace. Be cool out there, but not too cool. I mean, it's winter. But yeah, be cool.